I never expected that a forgotten iPad on a marble countertop would be the weapon that executed my 12-year marriage. For over a decade, I sacrificed my body and my bank account to build a perfect life for a man who treated me like a glorified ATM. But a single 6-digit passcode revealed the truth. I wasn't his only wife. I was just the financier of his secret second family. The wind off Lake Michigan in November doesn't blow. It slices. It whistled through the invisible seals of the double-paned glass in our 42nd floor penthouse, creating a low, menacing hum that sounded like a sleeping beast. I stood at the white marble island, hands wrapped tight around a steaming mug of Nespresso, looking down at the red and white beetles crawling along Lakeshore Drive below. From this height, the blizzard turned Chicago into a snow globe, and the people were just insignificant black specks. "I have to go, Elle." James's voice cut through the morning trance. I turned around. My husband stood in the doorway adjusting the navy blue tie of his Delta captain's uniform. He looked perfect. At 42, James possessed the kind of aging that only wealthy men seem to enjoy. Salt and pepper hair, perfectly coiffed broad shoulders, sitting squarely under 4 gold epaulets, and blue eyes that radiated a professional trustworthiness. It was the face that calmed nervous flyers when a plane hit turbulence. And it was the face that had convinced me Elena Vance, the Iron Lady of Chicago architecture, to lower my drawbridge 12 years ago. "Where are you off to this time?" I asked, walking over to straighten his collar. The scent of Tom Ford Oud wood radiated from him, rich, woody, expensive, the smell of safety. "Tokyo," he said, not meeting my eyes, glancing instead at the Breitling Navi timer on his wrist. "Haneda. It's a 2-day layover. The snow is piling up, so we might have de-icing delays. I need to get there early for the flight briefing. Did you pack your allergy meds?" Already in the bag, he tapped the aluminum Rimowa carry-on at his feet with the toe of his shoe. "Lock up tight. The forecast says this storm is going to rage all weekend." He leaned down and kissed me on the forehead. It was a dry, hasty peck. Procedural. Like a pre-flight checklist. Check flaps, check fuel, kiss wife, done. "Call me when you get to the hotel." I said the words automatic. "Of course, love you." The private elevator doors slid open with a soft chime. James pulled his handlebag inside, and the metal doors slid shut, swallowing him in his practiced smile. I stood there listening to the hum of the lift descending, taking the only warmth in this 4,000-square-foot apartment with it. The silence rushed back in instantly. It was an expensive silence insulation paid for by imported oak floors and the solitude of a career woman with no children. James and I had tried for the first 3 years, but after 2 miscarriages and thousands of hormone injections, we stopped. Or rather, James told me to stop. "We have each other, Elle," he had said, holding my hand in a sterile clinic. "I don't want to see you in pain anymore." At the time, I thought he was the most noble man on earth. I sighed and turned back to the kitchen to clean up. James always left a small battlefield behind him, scattered coffee pods, a crumpled Wall Street Journal, and croissant crumbs on the marble. I picked up the newspaper, intending to toss it into the recycling bin, when my eyes snagged on a foreign object nestled among the linen napkins. An iPad. Not the new 12.9-inch iPad Pro I had bought him for his birthday last month to view his Jeppesen charts. This was an old iPad Airspace Gray, the screen webbed with hairline scratches. I frowned. James was meticulous about his flight gear. He never boarded a plane without his electronic flight bag. I picked it up. It was lighter than I remembered. I flipped it over. There was a small peeling sticker of a cartoon airplane on the bottom corner, something my niece had stuck there last Christmas. "Damn it, James," I muttered. "You took the wrong one." I glanced at the clock on the microwave. He had been gone for 5 minutes. If I called now, he could come back up. But then I remembered his rule. Once I step into the elevator, phone goes to airplane mode. Do not disturb. Absolute focus. I pressed the power button. The screen lit up. The wallpaper was a generic cockpit view of clouds, the standard pilot aesthetic, 82% battery. I intended to put it down and let him figure it out. The airline had backup tablets in the cockpit anyway, but a curiosity began to itch at the back of my mind, a low-level static. Why had he dug this dinosaur out of the junk drawer? He hadn't touched it in a year. My finger hovered over the screen. Enter passcode. I typed our wedding date, 06-14-10. The screen shook. Incorrect passcode. I raised an eyebrow. James used our wedding date for everything from bank accounts to the garage door code. I tried his birthday, 03-12-81. Incorrect passcode. I tried my birthday. Incorrect passcode. A cold feeling started in my fingertips, traveled up my arms, and settled in my chest. It wasn't the Chicago winter chill. It was the chill of suspicion. Why would an old iPad abandoned for a year have a changed passcode? And more importantly, why did he pull it out this specific morning? I stood rooted in the middle of my $1 million kitchen, holding the tablet like a grenade with the pin pulled. I am an architect. My job is to see hidden structures to find the cracks in the foundation before the building collapses. And right now, my professional intuition was screaming that a massive fault line was running beneath my feet. I closed my eyes, rifling through my memory. Numbers. James wasn't creative. He was a creature of habit. He liked repetition. What numbers had he been using lately? I flashed back to last week at Whole Foods. He had used his separate debit card to pay for the wine because I forgot my wallet. I was standing right behind him. His fingers moved over the keypad quickly. 0, 8, 1, 2. I hadn't thought anything of it then, but now realizing it wasn't a birthday, I knew it felt significant. I opened my eyes. My trembling finger touched the glass. 0812. I paused. The iPad required 6 digits. The first 4 could be a date. August 12th. So what were the last 2? The year I typed 081218. The screen flashed, the padlock icon unlocked. I exhaled a breath I didn't know I was holding. I was in. The home screen appeared cluttered and chaotic. It was full of children's apps, Minecraft, Roblox, YouTube Kids. My heart skipped a beat. Kids' games. James hated children touching his tech. He always complained about sticky fingerprints on screens. He never installed games, not even for our nieces and nephews. I touched the Photos icon. In that split second before the app launched, I braced myself for the worst. I expected nudes, photos of a hot flight attendant in a hotel room, filthy sexts. I am a modern woman. I know men, especially pilots, have their layover flings. I'd even told myself once that if James slipped up physically during a long haul, I could forgive him as long as he came home to me. But what appeared on the screen wasn't sex. It was infinitely worse. It was warmth. The most recent photo taken 3 days ago. Location data read Marietta, Georgia. In the photo, James was standing in front of an outdoor BBQ grill. He was wearing an old polo t-shirt I thought he had thrown away years ago. He was laughing one hand, holding tongs the other, wrapped around the waist of a woman. She wasn't a model or a flight attendant. She was a black woman, perhaps my age, with natural curls bunched up in a messy bun and a radiant, unpretentious smile. She wore a simple floral dress, the kind you buy at Target, not Saks Fifth Avenue. She looked at James with adoration, a look I hadn't given him in years. But what made me drop the coffee mug wasn't the woman. It was the 2 children. 2 twin boys about 5 years old with cafe au lait skin and curly hair. They were running around James's legs, one holding a football, the other trying to climb up his back. James was leaning down, letting the child climb him. His face was glowing with happiness, a raw, unguarded joy he never showed around me. The Nespresso mug shattered at my feet. Hot coffee splashed onto my bare legs and expensive silk pants. But I felt no pain. I felt nothing but a black hole opening up in the center of my chest, sucking all the air out of the room. I swiped. The next photo. James and the woman kissing in front of a cute bungalow with purple bougainvillea on the porch. Swipe. James holding 2 newborns in a hospital. Date taken August 12th, 2018. The passcode, 081218. It was their birthday. Swipe. A video. My hand shook violently as I pressed play. Sound erupted, tearing through the silence of the cold penthouse. Blow them out, boys, harder. James's voice. The warm, encouraging, fatherly voice I had prayed to hear him use. With our child, the child that never came. Happy birthday, Leo and Lucas! The woman's voice chimed in, clapping. The 2 boys puffed out their cheeks and blew out the candles shaped like the number 5 on a lopsided homemade cake. James laughed, pulling all 3 of them into a bear hug. Daddy loves you. Daddy loves his team. The video ended. The screen went black, reflecting my own bloodless, horrified face. I collapsed onto the floor, right into the puddle of coffee and sharp porcelain shards. A piece of ceramic sliced my knee blood, seeping out to mix with the dark brown liquid, but I just sat there clutching the iPad like it was a life raft in an ocean of lies. He wasn't cheating. He had a different life. For 5 years. 5 years. While I lay alone in our king-size bed in Chicago, bruising my stomach with IVF needles trying to give him a family, he was in Georgia, changing diapers for his twin sons. While I worked 80-hour weeks to pay for this penthouse, for the luxury vacations in the Maldives, for the Porsche he drove, he was using that money to fund a secret family in a quiet suburb. Marietta, Georgia, I whispered. The name tasted like ash. Atlanta was Delta's biggest hub. Of course, the maintenance delays, the simulator training, the standby days, he claimed, required him to stay in Atlanta. They were all lies. He wasn't in a crew hotel. He was home. Their home. I felt bile rise in my throat. I scrambled up, ran to the sink, and retched until there was nothing left. But after the sickness passed, the tears didn't come. I stood up and looked at myself in the mirror. Elena Vance, senior partner. The woman who never let emotion compromise a blueprint. The woman who knew that if a foundation is rotten, you don't paint the walls, you condemn the building. And my marriage wasn't just cracked. It was an illegal structure built on someone else's land. I splashed freezing cold water on my face. I stared at my bloodshot eyes. The pain was there, throbbing like an open wound, but it was being overtaken by a different emotion. Something stronger, something colder, a calculation. I walked back to the kitchen and picked up the iPad. I didn't smash it. I didn't call James to scream at him. If I called him now, he would deny it. He would say it was his sister's kids, a prank, a Photoshop job, anything to gaslight me, which he had done successfully for 12 years. He would wipe the device remotely, move the money, and paint me as the crazy, jealous, barren wife. No, I needed more than an iPad. I needed forensic evidence. I needed to know where my money had gone. And most importantly, I needed to know who she was. Was she an accomplice, or was she a victim like me? I opened the Photos app again. I zoomed in on the picture taken in front of the house. House number 2408. The street name was obscured by an oak branch, but I saw a green recycling bin on the curb. The logo, Cobb County Waste Management. I pulled out my own phone and opened Google Maps. I typed 2408 Marietta, GA. I switched to Street View. I virtually cruised through the leafy streets of the southern suburbs. And then I found it. The pale yellow bungalow, the wide porch, the bougainvillea. Identical to the photo. An older model Ford Explorer was parked in the driveway. I accessed the Cobb County public tax records. In America, if you own a home, your name is public. Address 2408 Magnolia Lane. Owners Maya Williams and James E. Vance. His name was right there, James E. Vance. But the purchase date, September 2017. Value $350,000. Payment cash deed. Cash. $350,000. In September 2017, I had received a massive closing bonus from the River Point Tower project. I had transferred $400,000 into our joint savings account for retirement investment. James told me he had put it into blue chip stocks. He didn't buy stocks. He bought a love nest for his second wife. He used my blood, sweat, and sleepless nights to buy a roof for another woman and their children. I felt a laugh bubble up in my chest, a dry hacking sound that echoed like glass breaking. I wasn't the wife. I was the sponsor. I was the involuntary sugar daddy for my own husband. I looked at the woman's name again. Maya Williams. She owned half that house. I opened Facebook. I typed her name. Maya Williams, Marietta, GA. Her profile was public. Her profile picture was her and the twins. Her bio read, Mom to Leo and Lucas, wife to the world's best pilot, lover of Jesus and baking. Wife. She called herself his wife, too. I scrolled down her timeline. November 20th. Hubby has to fly out again. Miss him already. Hope the snow in Chicago isn't too cold. Attached was a photo of James wheeling his suitcase out the door. The same Rimowa, the same uniform. She knew he was going to Chicago. She thought he was working. She didn't know he was coming home to me. A thought struck me. If James was lying to me, he was certainly lying to her. A narcissist like James would never share the truth. He needed to keep his world separated to feed his massive ego. With me, he was the high-status luxury husband. With Maya, he was the dedicated father, the blue-collar hero. I checked my watch, 8:15 a.m. James was at 30,000 feet en route to Tokyo. He would be out of contact for at least another 13 hours. 13 hours. That was my golden window. I wiped the blood off my knee with a paper towel. I walked into the bedroom and opened the walk-in closet. I looked at my designer dresses, the rows of Hermes bags. All these luxury items suddenly looked cheap. They were the hush money James paid to keep me blind. I pulled down a small carry-on. I didn't pack clothes. I packed the iPad Air. I packed the bank statements I had just printed from the office printer. I packed our marriage certificate. I booked a flight. Not Delta. I didn't want my name popping up on his airline's manifest. I booked United Airlines. Flight UA 427. Departure 10:30 a.m. Destination Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. I wasn't going to call Maya. A call can be hung up on. A text can be deleted. I was going to knock on her door. I was going to stand in front of her in flesh and blood, wearing my sharp Givenchy suit like a living nightmare stepping out of James's lies. I walked out of the apartment, stepping over the puddle of cold coffee and broken porcelain. I left it there, let it dry into an ugly scar on the perfect white marble. It was a monument to my dead innocence. Outside, the wind was still screaming, but I didn't feel the cold anymore. The fire of rage burning inside me was hotter than any hearth. James thought he could fly above us, looking down on us like little chess pieces. But he forgot one thing. Every flight has to land. And when he touches down next time, I won't be waiting at arrivals with flowers. I'll be waiting on the runway with a match. I stepped into the elevator and hit the button for the garage. Atlanta. I whispered to my reflection in the polished steel doors. Here I come. The air in Atlanta tasted like wet pennies. The moment I stepped out of the automatic sliding doors at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, the sterile, dry freeze of Chicago was replaced by a humid, heavy atmosphere, thick with the smell of asphalt and pine pollen even in November. I pulled my Celine sunglasses down to cover my red-rimmed eyes and marched toward the Hertz rental counter. My Manolo Blahnik heels clicked a sharp, lonely rhythm on the terrazzo floor, out of place in a sea of sweatpants and flip-flops. I rented a black sedan, something nondescript, the kind of car no one looks at twice. I didn't want to be noticed. I was a ghost from the north carrying a death warrant for a marriage. The drive to Marietta was 45 minutes of stop-and-go southern traffic and billboards for personal injury lawyers. I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. The iPad sat on the passenger seat silent but heavy as a tombstone. Every mile was a mile deeper into James's secret life. I passed strip malls, megachurches with parking lots the size of football fields and high school stadiums. This was his world, a normal, boring, painfully American world. It was the antithesis of the martinis and fundraising galas we shared in Chicago. The GPS chirped, "You have arrived." I killed the engine and parked at the curb 2 houses down from 2408 Magnolia Lane. It looked smaller than in the photo. A modest yellow butter bungalow with a wide front porch and a swing. A red tricycle lay overturned on the lawn. A garden flag featuring a cartoon turkey fluttered by the front door. It radiated a coziness that made me want to vomit. I looked down at my Givenchy suit. It felt like armor. I inhaled deeply the smell of rental car leather mixing with my expensive perfume. "You can do this, Elena," I told myself. "You negotiate $50 million contracts. You can handle a suburban housewife." I stepped out of the car. The afternoon sun filtered through the oak leaves, dappling the pavement. I walked up the driveway. My heart was hammering, not from fear, but from adrenaline. I was about to destroy someone's world, and ironically, it was the only way to save my own. I rang the doorbell. Ding dong. A cheerful hollow sound. There was the sound of rushing footsteps inside. A dog barked. A woman's voice called out, "Leo, hold Buster back. Mommy's getting the door." The door swung open, and there she was, Maya. She looked more real than in the photos. No filter hid the slight dark circles under her eyes or the stray gray hairs in her messy bun. She was wearing a flour-dusted apron over a gray lounge set. The smell of cinnamon and baked apples rushed out from behind her, enveloping me. She looked at me, her brown eyes widening in surprise. She took in my suit, my heels, and my handbag that cost more than her car. "Hi," she said, her voice carrying a soft southern lilt elongating the vowels. "Can I help you? Are you selling insurance?" I looked her dead in the eye. I searched for calculation. I searched for the smirk of a gold digger who knew she had won. But I saw nothing, only curiosity and the weary kindness of a busy mother. "Are you Maya Williams?" I asked, my voice cold. "Yes, that's me." She wiped her hands on her apron, stepping back slightly, a defensive instinct kicking in. "Is something wrong?" "My name is Elena Vance," I said. I watched her face closely as I dropped the last name. No reaction, no flicker of recognition. "Vance?" She frowned, thinking. "I don't think we've met. Are you a colleague of James's?" My heart twisted. Colleague. She knew James's name, but she didn't know my last name. "No," I said, taking a step forward, invading her personal space. "I'm not a colleague. I'm his wife." Time seemed to freeze on that sunny porch. The birds stopped singing. The polite smile on Maya's face froze, then shattered. She blinked once, twice, as if her brain couldn't process the words I had just thrown at her. Excuse me." She stammered a nervous laugh, escaping her lips. "Are you joking? Is this a prank? James is in Tokyo?" "Yes, James is flying to Tokyo," I said, holding up the iPad. "Flight DL 294. He left our apartment in Chicago this morning at 7:00 a.m. He kissed me goodbye and he left this on the kitchen counter." I unlocked the screen with the passcode 081218 and held the family photo up to her face. Maya's face went from warm brown to ash gray. She looked at the photo, then at me, then back at the photo. Her hands started to shake violently. She had to grab the doorframe to stay upright. "That's impossible," she whispered. James is my husband. We've been married for 5 years. He's in pharmaceutical sales. He is a senior captain for Delta Airlines." I cut in ruthlessly. "And he has been married to me for 12 years. I live in Chicago. I am the one who paid for this house, Maya. Cash. $350,000 in September of 2017. She shook her head wildly, tears starting to pool in her eyes. No, that's not right. He said it was a sales bonus. He worked so hard. We can stand here and let the neighbors hear about how your husband is a bigamist," I said, my voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Or you can invite me inside and I will show you the receipts." Maya looked at me with sheer terror. For a moment, I thought she would slam the door, but then her eyes darted past my shoulder to the empty street and then back to the iPad in my hand. Curiosity and fear were warring inside her. She stepped back, opening the door wider, a gesture of surrender. "Come in," she said, her voice breaking. I stepped into the house. It was warm. That was the first thing I noticed, not the expensive central heating warmth of my penthouse, but the warmth of life. The pine floors were scuffed. The walls were covered in children's drawings. The smell of baked apples was stronger inside. Maya led me into the living room. The furniture was old, frayed at the edges, the kind of sofa you buy at IKEA 10 years ago. Nothing here was luxurious. This made me pause. James had siphoned hundreds of thousands of dollars from my accounts over the years. If the money wasn't in Maya's furniture or clothes, where was it? "Mommy, who is that?" A small voice piped up. I turned. 2 twin boys, identical to James, the eyes, the chin, the smile, were standing in the kitchen doorway holding slices of apple pie. My heart felt like it was being squeezed in a vice. They were real. They were flesh and blood. They were the children I had prayed for, cried for, bled for. And they were standing here, calling another woman Mom. Maya rushed over to block them from my view like a mother hen protecting her chicks from a fox. "Leo Lucas, go to the playroom, baby. Mommy is talking to a friend of Daddy's." "Is Daddy home yet?" One asked, his eyes lighting up. "No, honey," Maya said, choking back a sob. "Go inside. You can watch TV for 15 minutes. The boys cheered and scampered away. Maya turned back to face me. The vulnerability vanished, replaced by the look of a mother cornered. "What do you want?" she asked. "If you're his mistress and you're here to blackmail us, I don't have any money. James manages everything." I set my Hermes bag down on the scratched coffee table. I pulled out the thick folder of documents I had printed in a rage back in Chicago. "I'm not a mistress, Maya. I wish I were a mistress. Mistresses are easy to leave." I slid the folder toward her. "This is my marriage certificate to James Vance dated 2011. These are my bank statements. Look at them. Look at the cash withdrawals in Atlanta. Look at the dates." Maya picked up the paper. Her hands trembled as she scanned the rows of numbers. "October 12th, $500, she muttered. That was the day I needed money for Lucas's bronchitis medicine. December 24th, $2,000. I continued. "That was the day he bought you that gold necklace, wasn't it?" Maya's hand flew to her throat. The thin gold chain was still there. "How did you know?" "Because he told me it was for Porsche repairs." I laughed dryly, a sound devoid of humor. "He uses my money to keep you. He used my money to buy this house. And he uses my time to play the perfect father." Maya dropped the paper. She sank onto the sofa as if her legs had been cut out from under her. She buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking. Sobs wrecked her body, raw and ugly sounds of a heart breaking. I stood there watching this woman crumble. I should have felt triumphant. I should have felt superior. I was the real wife. I was rich. I was sophisticated. But I felt nothing but pity and a deep, resonating sadness. She wasn't a gold digger. She wore old clothes. She baked at home. She raised his children alone while he traveled for work. She was being deceived, too, just in a different way. I was deceived emotionally. She was deceived about reality. I sat down on the armchair opposite her, my knees brushing the pine coffee table. "What does he tell you he does for a living?" I asked, my voice softening. Maya wiped her eyes, looking up at me. "Medical device sales. He says he has to travel to hospitals all over the country. He says the job is high pressure. He says we have to be frugal because the market is tough." "Frugal?" I raised an eyebrow. "Maya James's base salary is over $300,000 a year. Combined with my income, our net worth is over $3 million. Maya's jaw dropped. $3 million? He yelled at me last week because I bought the name brand diapers instead of the generic ones. He controls every cent I spend. He gives me a cash allowance for groceries every week." The truth clicked into place, forming a complete ugly picture. James was a financial abuser. With me, he played the generous but busy husband, using my money to fund a high-status image. With Maya, he played the struggling provider, controlling her through scarcity, keeping her dependent on the crumbs he tossed her. He had 2 families, 2 personas, and he was the king of both kingdoms. "He's a monster," Maya whispered. I believed him. God, I gave him children. "How did you meet?" 5 years ago, Maya said, looking into the distance. "I was a flight attendant for Delta. We met on a rough flight. He was charming. He told me he was divorced, that his ex-wife was a cold, ambitious woman who didn't want kids." I clenched my fist. Cold and ambitious. Is that how he described me after all the IVF failures I endured for him? I got pregnant with Leo and Lucas after 3 months of dating. Maya continued, tears streaming again. I was going to get an abortion because I was scared, but he cried. He got on his knees and begged me to keep them. He said it was his only chance to be a father. He bought this house right after. We had a small ceremony in the backyard, just a pastor and some friends. "That ceremony wasn't legal, Maya," I said brutally. "He never divorced me. Your marriage license is a piece of paper." Maya slumped. I know that now. I'm nothing. I'm the other woman. My kids are—" "Don't say it," I snapped. For the first time, I felt a defensive urge toward her. "The kids are innocent. And you were naive, but you're not a criminal. The criminal is the man currently flying to Tokyo." I stood up, pacing the small living room. The rage inside me was transmuting. It wasn't a wildfire anymore. It was becoming a laser. Sharp, cold, precise. "Do you still love him?" I asked abruptly. Maya looked up. There was pain in her eyes, but also disgust. "Love him? The man I loved doesn't exist. The man I loved was a dedicated father, a hard-working salesman. The James Vance who has $3 million and lies to 2 women, I don't know that man, and I hate him." "Good," I said, "because we are going to destroy him." Maya wiped her face with her sleeve. "What are you going to do?" "Call the police, divorce him." "Divorce is too easy for him," I said. "If I divorce him now, he splits the assets with me. He uses that money to hire a great lawyer, and maybe he comes back here living happily ever after with you and the kids on half of my hard-earned money." Maya shuddered. "I don't want him. Not ever again." "Then we have to take the thing he loves most," I said. "Money," Maya asked. "Not just money." I shook my head. "Status, his career, his perfect cover. He is a senior captain. The airline has strict rules about ethics and psychological stability. A pilot who maintains 2 families, commits financial fraud, and lives a double life is a security risk. If the airline finds out, he loses his wings. Permanently." Maya's eyes lit up with a spark of fire. "He loves flying more than anything, more than me, more than you." "Exactly." I stepped closer to Maya and held out my hand. "I need your help, Maya. I can't do this alone. I need evidence from your side. I need texts, photos, and your cooperation." Maya looked at my hand. The hand of the cold, ambitious woman. The hand wearing a Cartier diamond ring she probably never dared to dream of. But she also saw the calluses of a hard worker and the suppressed tremor of a betrayed wife. She took my hand. Hers was warm and rough. "I'll do anything," Maya said. "For my boys. I don't want them growing up to be men like their father." "When does he come back here?" I asked. Maya glanced at the calendar on the fridge. "Thanksgiving, this Thursday. He promised to come home and roast the turkey. He said he has a 4-day layover." I smiled, a smile that made Maya flinch slightly. "Thanksgiving," I repeated. "Perfect. There's nothing cozier than a full family reunion." Maya's phone buzzed on the kitchen table. She jumped, looking at the screen. "It's him. He's FaceTiming." I signaled for silence. I pointed to the chair. "Answer it. Put it on speaker, but don't show my face." Maya took a deep breath, smoothed her hair, and forced a smile onto her face. She tapped the green button. James's face filled the screen. He was in a luxury hotel room in Tokyo, the Tokyo Tower glowing in the background. He was wearing a plush bathrobe. "Hey, baby," James said, his voice sickly sweet. "Are the Munchkins asleep?" "Yes," Maya said, her voice wavering, but she held it together. "They just went down. Did you arrive safely?" "Safe and sound?" James grinned. "Long flight, but good. I miss you and the boys so much. I just want to be done with this work trip and come home." I stood behind Maya out of frame, staring at the screen. That man my husband was speaking words of love to another woman using the exact same tone he used with me this morning. The nausea returned, but this time it turned into fuel. "I miss you too," Maya said, her eyes locked on mine. "Are you still coming for Thanksgiving? I bought a huge turkey." "Wouldn't miss it for the world," James promised. "I land in Atlanta Thursday morning. I'll come straight home. Don't cook anything too hard. Let me handle the bird." "Okay. "Love you," Maya said. "Love you too." James blew a kiss and hung up. The screen went black. Maya dropped the phone, exhaling like she had just run a marathon. "I don't know how I did that." "You did perfectly," I said. "This Thursday he is going to have the most memorable Thanksgiving of his life." I opened my bag and pulled out my Black American Express card. "Tomorrow we go shopping, Maya." "Shopping for what?" She looked confused. "Everything he forbade you from buying," I said. "And we are going to prepare the feast. I'll stay at a hotel nearby. Thursday morning I'll come over, and when he walks through that door, I'll open it." Maya finished, her voice hardening. "But you'll be the welcome committee." I nodded. Outside, the sun was setting behind the oak trees, painting the Atlanta sky blood red. 2 strangers, one rich one, poor, one north, one south, but we were just connected by a bond stronger than blood hatred for the same man. "Welcome to the James Vance Wives Club," I said, smirking. "Current membership 2. Survivors after this week, 2 unemployed pilots, 1. Maya laughed. It was a bitter sound, but it was the sound of freedom. I walked out of the bungalow, leaving the warm yellow light behind, and stepped into the gathering darkness. I didn't feel like a victim anymore. I was the director of the upcoming play, and the curtain call was going to be spectacular. Thursday morning dawned with a sky the color of a fresh bruised purple and slate gray, hanging low over the Georgia pines. It was Thanksgiving Day, the holiest of American secular holidays, a day dedicated to gratitude, gluttony, and the performance of family unity. Inside the bungalow on Magnolia Lane, the air was thick with the scent of sage, rosemary, and roasting poultry. But beneath the traditional aromas lay the sharp metallic tang of an impending execution. I stood in Maya's kitchen wearing a silk blouse and tailored trousers that cost more than the appliances surrounding me. I was sharpening a carving knife. Swing, swing. The rhythmic sound of steel against steel was the only noise in the room. Maya was taking the turkey out of the oven. She looked different today. Yesterday I had taken her to Lenox Square Mall. I didn't turn her into a clone of me that would have been cruel, but I bought her clothes that fit properly, shoes that weren't scuffed, and I took her to a salon to tame her curls into a sleek, powerful style. She wasn't just the weary mother anymore. She looked like a woman who owned her space. "Is it done?" I asked, testing the edge of the blade with my thumb. "Internal temperature is 165 degrees. Maya said, her voice steady. "Perfect." "Where are the boys?" "My sister picked them up an hour ago. I told her we were having a grown-up discussion before dinner. I don't want them to see their father in handcuffs." "Smart?" I nodded. "You're a good mother, Maya. Better than he deserves." Maya wiped her hands on a towel. "He texted. He's 10 minutes away. He stopped to get flowers." I let out a short, dark laugh. "Flowers? How original. Lilies for guilt, roses for gaslighting." "He's expecting me to be in the kitchen frazzled and grateful," Maya said, looking around the room. We had transformed it. Gone were the plastic tablecloths and paper napkins. The dining table was set with a damask cloth crystal wine glasses and fine china I had rush ordered. It looked like a spread in Southern Living magazine. It looked like money. "He's going to walk in," I instructed, moving to the dining room. "You greet him at the door. Be normal. Let him come all the way inside. Let him put his bag down. Let him feel safe. And then I lead him to the dining room." Maya finished. "Exactly. I'll be waiting at the head of the table." I took my position. I poured myself a glass of heavy Cabernet Sauvignon, watching the crimson liquid swirl against the crystal. My heart wasn't racing anymore. The adrenaline had settled into a cold, hard resolve. This wasn't just revenge for me. It was a foreclosure on a fraudulent life. Outside, the sound of a car engine purred up the driveway. A door slammed. Footsteps crunched on the gravel. My grip on the wine glass tightened. Showtime. The front door opened. "Honey, I'm home." James's voice boomed through the hallway, rich and confident. It was the voice of the conquering hero returning from battle, or, in his case, the weary pilot returning from a grueling trip to Tokyo. "Smells amazing in here. Did you make the pecan pie?" "Hi, James." Maya's voice was softer, controlled. "Hey, beautiful." I heard the wet smack of a kiss. "You look... Wow, you did something to your hair. You look incredible. And is that a new dress? Do you like it?" "I love it. But we talked about the budget, sweetie. We have to be careful with spending right now. The market is..." "Tough, I know," Maya cut him off. "Come on in. Dinner is ready. I have a surprise for you." "A surprise? I love surprises. Where are the boys?" "Playing at my sister's. Just for an hour. I wanted you all to myself first." I like the sound of that," James murmured. I could hear the smirk in his voice. He dropped his heavy flight bag on the floor with a thud. "Lead the way." Footsteps approached the dining room. I stood up, smoothing the front of my trousers. I picked up the carving knife. Maya walked in first. She stepped aside, revealing the room, revealing me. James walked in a bouquet of cheap grocery store carnations in his hand, a smile plastered on his face. He stopped. The flowers dropped from his hand. They hit the floor with a soft rustle water from the stem splashing onto the hardwood. His face didn't just pale, it disintegrated. The confident, handsome features slackened into a mask of pure, unadulterated horror. His eyes bulged, darting from me to Maya, then back to me as if his brain was frantically trying to reject the visual input. "Hello, James," I said, my voice smooth as silk. "Happy Thanksgiving." He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. He looked like a fish gasping on a dock. Elena. He finally choked out, his voice cracking. What are you doing here?" "I'm carving the turkey," I said, gesturing with the knife. "Maya told me you usually do the honors, but since you've been so exhausted from your trip to Tokyo, I thought I'd help out." He took a stumbling step back, bumping into the doorframe. He looked at Maya, his eyes pleading. "Maya, what is this? Why is she here?" Maya stood tall, her arms crossed over her chest. She didn't flinch. "She's here because you invited her, James. Well, you invited your wife. Turns out there are two of us." "No." James shook his head, a sheen of sweat instantly appearing on his forehead. No, this is a misunderstanding. Maya, listen to me. This woman, she's crazy. She's a stalker. She's an ex-girlfriend from years ago who can't let go. I have a restraining order against her." I laughed. It was a genuine, belly-deep laugh. The audacity of this man was truly something to behold. Even when caught red-handed, his first instinct was to gaslight. "A stalker." I asked, picking up the black folder from the table. "Is that why you have a joint bank account with this stalker containing $2 million? Is that why you slept in this stalker's bed in Chicago 3 days ago?" "Shut up!" James snapped at me, the mask of the nice guy falling away instantly. He turned to Maya, grabbing her shoulders. "Baby, look at me. Look at me. You know me. I'm your husband. I'm the father of your children. She's trying to ruin us. She's jealous. You have to believe me." Maya looked at his hands on her shoulders. Slowly, deliberately, she reached up and peeled his fingers off her skin, as if they were covered in slime. "I believed you for 5 years," Maya said quietly. "I believed you when you said we couldn't afford name-brand cereal. I believed you when you said you were in a hotel in Tokyo when you were actually in a penthouse in Chicago. I believed you were a struggling salesman." She stepped back, standing next to me. "But then Elena showed me the deed to this house," Maya said. "James, you bought this house with her money." James froze. He looked at the two of us standing side by side, the tall, sharp architect in silk and the warm, resilient mother in wool. We were a united front, a wall of feminine rage he couldn't charm or bully his way through. "Okay," James exhaled, holding up his hands in a placating gesture. He switched tactics, the charm offensive. "Okay, you caught me. I messed up. I fell in love with both of you. Is that a crime I have so much love to give I couldn't choose? I took care of both of you, didn't I, Elena? You have the career, the penthouse. Maya, you have the kids, the house. Everyone was happy. Why do we have to blow this up?" "Why," I repeated, stepping forward, the knife still in my hand. "Because it's illegal, James. It's called bigamy. It's a felony in the state of Georgia." "And fraud," Maya added. "And theft." I finished. James's eyes narrowed. The panic was turning into aggression. "You think you can scare me? I'm James Vance. I'm a senior captain. I have resources. If you try to expose me, I'll destroy you both. Elena, I'll drag out the divorce for years. I'll bleed you dry in legal fees. And Maya, I'll take the kids. I'll prove you're an unfit mother who let a stranger into our home. You'll never see Leo and Lucas again." It was a terrifying threat. But I wasn't scared. I was prepared. "You won't be taking anyone anywhere, James," I said, glancing at my watch, "because in about 2 minutes you're going to be very busy." "Busy doing what?" he sneered. "Explaining to the police why you have 2 marriage licenses," I said. At that moment, sirens wailed in the distance. They were getting louder, closer. James's head snapped toward the window. Blue lights flashed through the sheer curtains, painting the dining room in a chaotic strobe. "You called the cops," he whispered, horror dawning on him. "We called the cops," Maya corrected. "And we called someone else, too." James's phone buzzed in his pocket. Then it buzzed again. And again. A relentless stream of notifications. He pulled it out with a trembling hand. "Read it," I commanded. He looked at the screen. His face went gray. It's It's the chief pilot, he stammered. Go on, I urged. Read the email. He swallowed hard. Captain Vance, effective immediately, you are suspended pending an internal investigation into gross misconduct violation of the morality clause and potential criminal charges regarding financial fraud. Your security clearance has been revoked. Do not report to duty. He dropped the phone. It cracked on the hardwood floor. My wings, he whispered. You took my wings. You clipped them yourself, I said. I sent the packet to Delta HR this morning at 9:00 a.m., including the photos of you vacationing in Marietta while on sick leave last year. Union rules are strict about time theft, James. He looked at me with pure hatred. You bitch. You vindictive, barren bitch. He lunged. It was a desperate, clumsy move. He came across the table, knocking over the wine glasses, reaching for my throat. I didn't flinch. I didn't have to. The front door burst open. Police, nobody move. 2 officers stormed into the hallway, hands on their holsters. James froze, mid-lunge, half-sprawled over the Thanksgiving turkey. It was a pathetic tableau. The great pilot, the master manipulator, draped over a roasted bird like a drunkard. James Vance, the officer barked. James slowly straightened up, raising his hands. He was shaking violently now. I can explain, he stammered. These women, it's a domestic dispute. They're hysterical. Save it for the judge, the officer said, grabbing James's wrists and spinning him around. The click-click of handcuffs was the sound of my freedom. You're under arrest for bigamy and grand larceny, the officer recited. You have the right to remain silent. As they dragged him out, James twisted his neck to look back at us. He didn't look at me. He looked at Maya. Maya, please, he begged, tears streaming down his face. Call my lawyer. Don't let them take me. Think of the boys. Maya stepped forward. She looked him in the eye, her face calm and stony. I am thinking of the boys, she said. That's why I'm letting them take you. The door slammed shut. The sirens wailed again, then faded into the distance, taking the toxic cloud that had hovered over our lives with them. Silence returned to the dining room. The turkey sat there uncarved. The wine spilled across the white tablecloth like a bloodstain. I exhaled a long breath, my shoulders dropping. The tension that had held me upright for 3 days suddenly vanished, leaving me feeling light, almost dizzy. Maya walked over to the table. She picked up the fallen wine glass, refilled it, and handed it to me. Then she poured one for herself. He's gone, she said. It wasn't a question. He's gone, I confirmed. With the evidence we gave them, plus the airline firing him, he won't make bail. He's a flight risk with no job and no fixed address. He'll be in Cobb County Jail until trial. And the house? Maya asked, looking around the walls that had been her prison and her sanctuary. I reached into my bag and pulled out a document. I placed it on the table. This is a quitclaim deed, I explained. I had my lawyer draw it up. Since the house was bought with my funds, technically I can seize it. Maya flinched, gripping her glass. So, we have to move out. Read it, Maya. She picked up the paper. Her eyes scanned the legal jargon. Then she stopped. She gasped, covering her mouth with her hand. Transferee, Maya Williams. She looked at me bewildered. I'm transferring the title to you, I said. I don't need a house in Georgia, and I certainly don't want the house that James bought to hide his lies. It's tainted for me. But for you, it's your children's home. It's their school district. It's their stability. Elena, tears spilled over her cheeks again. I can't. This is $300,000. Why? Because you didn't know, I said softly, and because you helped me take him down. Consider it a settlement, a divorce settlement from the marriage that never technically existed. I took a sip of wine. There's a condition, though, I added. Maya nodded eagerly. Anything. You have to change the locks today, and you have to promise me that when Leo and Lucas grow up, you'll teach them how to treat women, raise them to be the opposite of him. I promise, Maya said, her voice fierce. I swear on my life. We stood there for a moment, 2 women who should have been enemies sharing a bottle of wine over the ruin of a man who tried to play us both. Are you hungry? Maya asked, gesturing to the cooling turkey. I looked at the food. Suddenly I was starving. Starving, I said. We sat down. We ate the turkey. We ate the collard greens. We ate the pecan pie. We didn't talk about James anymore. We talked about Maya's boys. We talked about my architectural firm. We talked about the future. For the first time in years, Thanksgiving felt like something to be truly thankful for. 2 hours later, I was back in the rental car driving toward the airport. I stopped at the end of the driveway and looked back at the little yellow bungalow. The lights were on. I could see shadows moving inside Maya and her sister, probably bringing the boys back in. I felt a pang of something not jealousy, but a quiet ache for the family life I had chased so desperately. But then I looked at the passenger seat. It was empty. The iPad was gone, handed over to the police as evidence. The lies were gone. I drove to the airport. I didn't fly United this time. I walked up to the Delta counter, James's airline. "I'd like a ticket to Chicago," I told the agent. "First class." "Certainly, ma'am," she tapped on her keyboard. "We have a seat on the 8-hour PM flight." "Perfect." I went through security, my head held high. I walked to the Delta Sky Club, the lounge where James used to spend hours working. I ordered a champagne. I pulled out my phone. I had one last text to send. It was to my lawyer in Chicago. Text, "He's in custody. File the divorce papers immediately. Cite adultery, bigamy, and fraud. And liquidate the joint investment accounts before the feds freeze them. Move my share to the offshore trust." Reply, "On it." "Are you okay?" I looked out the window at the tarmac. The runway lights were blinking in the twilight, a constellation of possibilities. I watched a massive jet roar down the strip and lift off into the darkening sky, defying gravity, leaving the earth behind. For 12 years, I had been a passenger in James's life, strapped in, trusting the pilot, blindly following his flight plan. I typed back, "I'm not just okay. I'm finally the captain." I downed the champagne, picked up my bag, and walked toward the gate. The storm in Chicago had passed.